Hi folks, my name is Steve and today we are looking at Isle of Trains All Aboard. So this is currently on Kickstarter, it's already funded, so we're going to find out a little bit more about it, see if it's one you should be backing or one you can skip. So straight away, this is an engine building pick up and deliver game, right? You're going to be drawing cards, you're going to be building out your engine, literally and figuratively. You're going to be loading that engine with supplies and resources and passengers, and then you're going to be delivering those resources to claim contracts on the board or sending the passengers to the various locations to get other rewards. That is essentially the game, right? That's how you're going to score the victory points. As you start to claim these various contracts, this little train's going to move along, and this essentially is a timer for the game. Rather than having rounds, you've got this as a timer. So let's take a closer look at the actions you can do. You can take two actions on your turn. First action that you can take the same action twice if you want as well. First action you can take is the take action, which is essentially draw yourself a card and add it to your hand. Nice and easy. Next action is the build action. So let's take a look at some cards, because these cards in Isle of Trains are multi-purpose. So they're going to serve a few different purposes within the game. They're going to be resources, they're going to be things that you can actually build, and they're also going to be discarded as to actually allow you to build these things. So there's a nice angst within that of how you use these cards, right? So the build action, we're basically going to look at our hand. Maybe we want to build out, for example, this box car here, right? So we want to add that because that lets us load up some storage and things like that. So this is going to cost us 6. Which means we're going to have to discard 6 cards. We won't be able to do that right now, but let's assume we drew some extra cards to do that or something. And we would then add that to our train. We can also upgrade. So if you notice, we start with a level 1 engine right here, but we've got a level 2 engine in our hand. So when we upgrade, we pay the difference. So in this case, this level 1 engine would have cost 1, but we're upgrading to a 3, so we're going to pay the difference of 2. We're then going to get this reward, which is an extra meeple. Add that to our supply, and then also it's going to tell us some other things. It's going to tell us a reward if someone loads it. It's also going to tell us the load capacity. So in this example, this engine can hold 1 meeple, and if one of my opponents loads that up, I'll talk more about loading in a minute, then they get a couple of cards essentially. So they're getting a reward if they help us load up our supply. But back to the build action. This is essentially how you're doing this. You're basically paying the cost and you're adding it. Now you'll notice here on our main engine, we've got a green 6, which basically tells us we've got a weight value of 6 that we're allowed to have on this engine. And we're absolutely fine right now because we've got a weight of 5. And we could even get this little oil tanker in there as well. Although that would be quite expensive, but let's assume as we go through the game, you know, we build up to this kind of thing. We can also build these buildings. Same idea. We're going to pay 6 cards for this oil refinery, add it to our tableau, and it's going to give us some end game victory points. Essentially, we're going to be scoring extra points for any oil contracts that we've fulfilled. So that is the build action. So the next action is going to be load, and the load action is where we actually, let's grab some more cards just to demonstrate how that works. But the load action is where we actually start to load up these trains with the various resources. So you've kind of seen it here already where we've loaded this meeple into our engine, but maybe we want to get some oil over here because we've built this refinery and that seems useful. So what we're going to do, we're going to look at these cards, and for instance this coal factory can act as a wild resource, so we can load that up into our oil tanker for part of our load action. This other level 2 engine also acts as an oil, if you notice here. That's what I'm using to determine what I can have. So we can load another one that's unfortunately stacked, but essentially that's what's going on, guys. That you're going to be loading up resources into your trains. That's the load action. Now, what's important about the load action, I'll talk about more about this at the end of the game, but essentially why this is interesting is because if I load into my own carts, I'm not getting this additional reward. So you'll notice if we look at this level 3 tanker, it can hold three oil resources, and then it's got a reward after it. I'm not going to get that reward if I load into my own tanker, but if my opponent loads into this tanker, so into my tanker, he's going to get this reward, which is going to let him do an action and draw some extra cards. So there's a really nice little angst there of, you kind of want to be loading into your opponents to get some extra resources, but you want to load up your own so you can go and claim these contracts. So we've got our carts all loaded up. Then we can look at the deliver action. So this is where we take our cargo and start delivering. And there are really two like primary types of thing you're going to be doing with your deliver. You're going to be delivering meeples to the different locations, so we can drop this guy off at Camp Eagle. So we can head to Camp Eagle, drop this guy off, and that's going to give us, sorry, hang on. That's going to give us a victory point, and it's going to let us draw another meeple out of the bag. When this ticket stub is fully filled up, that would also tick over the round marker, or the timer for the game. And then the other thing we're going to be doing is head into these various locations on the map in order to claim these contracts. So we'd certainly want to be heading over to Devon City so that we can claim this, because we are heavily invested into oil, right? So you get rid of these, you discard these oils, and we then have this Devon City, and this is a contract that we fulfilled. We can also do these secondary contracts at a later time, now that we've fulfilled that. The map itself is not interactive, right? It's a fun little way of holding these contracts, but essentially you're not moving trains around this map. As lovely as it looks, you're just grabbing contracts. So that is the deliver. You can deliver generic, like there's a few little caveats within that where you can deliver generic things by just discarding to get some cards if you want to kind of fulfill your hand and things. So you're going to do 2 of these actions, and you're going to keep going and until this train marker hits the 6, and then we're going to wrap things up and you can do end game scoring. That is essentially the game, guys, right? So it's nice and simple, it's really easy. So let's talk a little bit about whether it's right for you, whether you should be backing this one, right? So for me, this is a really nice game, right? It is a like classic engine builder, right, where you are trying to get this engine going in order to just fulfill contracts. That's the crux of the game, right? You want to fill these up with as much stuff as you can, get them onto the board, grab these contracts as quick as you can, and just get a good turnover, and then get some of these buildings built to help with your end game scoring. If that kind of thing doesn't appeal to you, you're not going to like this game, right? Added on to that, things that you want to consider is like the multi-use cards is a big part of the fun in this game, right? Because you're constantly, we've got our hand of cards, right? And you constantly kind of want everything out of the cards. You want to build them. You have to discard some. You want them for their resources. So in a situation like this, right, you've got a bunch of cards. You may want this level 2 engine because maybe you're stuck with your level 1, right? So that's your first like consideration where you're thinking, right, well, I can't afford it yet maybe, but I do want it, so I'm gonna have to hold on to that. But then equally, you might be wanting to load it up so that you can actually start getting this oil tanker useful so that we can go and get this Devon City. And this is like a big part of the angst in the game, is trying to figure out exactly how you're going to do all that. How am I going to have enough cards to discard while keeping the cards I want? And it can be quite frustrating. There's a lot to think about, right? And if you're kind of the type of player who really wants to analyze everything about the game and really kind of solve it's going to be frustrating for you, I think, because it's very difficult to solve that kind of puzzle, if you like. And it is a puzzle, right? But it's a puzzle that you've kind of got to roll with the punches a little bit, because you are going to have to discard these cards you want, because otherwise you're just not going to get your engine going. So there are times where You have to give up on something to get something else done. You have to use a card that you think would have been a really good endgame scorer for its resource rather than actually building the coal factory, because otherwise someone else is going to nab this Devon city. So that's a big part of the angst, and I like that in the game, and I think it kind of needs that. You need that kind of pacing where you can't fully solve the game. It keeps it quick, it keeps it ticking over. But if you have got you know, a lot of friends that are prone to a bit of AP and things like that, this is probably the sort of game that is going to really set that off, right? So just be aware of that. What else can we talk about? Artwork. I think the artwork's really nice. It's really cute. It's visually really appealing. I think they've done a good job. They've done a great job with the Tabletop Simulator app as well. Really nicely done. So this board, right, looks awesome, but it's not connected to gameplay. Is something that might be a little bit of a letdown for people. I think it's a nice way to demonstrate and to lay out the contracts, but that's what these are, right? They're just contracts that you're going to be fulfilling. You're not putting your trains on the map and, you know, moving about. There's no movement. It feels like a shame that there's not a kind of distance element to the locations, like maybe Alpine Lodges further to travel to and costs some extra resources. That's something I'm not sure, but it feels like it's a shame that is not integrated in some way, because I got this lovely map that's kind of built out, but it is just a case of claiming these. You know, once you fulfill this, you head to Billington, you fill this, and then you claim this, and then later you can do these as secondary contracts, kind of thing. And what's going to happen is, over the course of the game, these are just going to be nabbed by the players, and we decimate our lovely little island that we had at the beginning. I think that's a shame, right? I don't think it's game breaking in any way. I don't think it's going to necessarily detract from the experience. I think it's still a lovely little visual thing that you get. But yeah, I guess that was, as I was reading through the rules, I expected this to be integrated in some different way. So just be aware of that, right? If you've seen the visuals, just be aware. Meeples, I think this is a really clever mechanic. This gives you access to other things, right? We can, you know, if we want some end game score, we can send this guy over here and get some victory points. You know, if we had different coloured meeples, you know, well, we can get more in that case, but you get the idea, right? You're going to be sending them to different places. Some of them are going to trigger bonus actions as well. So there's a little bit of action cascade there as well, where you can kind of claim these spots. So up here we can do a free load action. There are some caveats within that, but essentially, you know, it's a free load action. So action economy wise, super useful. And yet the game just works really well. I haven't played it much. I've played it a couple of times now, and it's really smooth. It played really well with 3 players, because you're kind of loading up the resources and you're constantly trying to decide, well, actually I want this free load action and a bunch of cards, so maybe I'll give him this resource or give her this resource, and I'm constantly like loading up other people's trains, and I feel terrible about it, but I don't care because I get this kickback, where if I'm loading up my own trains, I'm getting closer to getting my contracts fulfilled, but I'm not getting any reward, so there's a little bit of disappointment there. So I think that works really well. It's a really nice dynamic, because it means you're kind of, the game keeps ticking over, because I'm trying to help you get to your contracts, because I'm being greedy and I want something out of that. So I think that works nicely. Really good game overall. I'd highly recommend it. But yeah, just be aware of those few things that I have mentioned. I think there's a potential for a little bit of analysis paralysis to kick in with this game, and you have to kind of just be prepared to roll with the punches a little bit, because, you know, this should be a kind of 45 minutes to an hour game, and I think potentially with the wrong group, this could run quite long, just through people overthinking the variety and you know, trying to solve every problem within there. You know, you kind of just have to play it at a decent clip, and then it's really good fun. But yeah, hopefully that's given you an idea, guys, of whether it's right for you. Let me know in the comments if you backed it. Super cheap as well, guys. I think it's like £20, £25 for the deluxe edition, so well worth looking at. I'll leave a link in the description. But yeah, thanks very much, guys, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye bye.